Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Hangar 9 Carbon Cub. I had to think about the name of it there for a second. But it's been a while since we visited this particular project. Last time we mounted the engine. And yeah, ran into some problems. I should have tried putting the cowl on or measuring the distance between the firewall and the prop hub a little sooner than I have now. I just got back to this particular plane, and this engine is way too big. Not saying we can't make it work. I had to weigh the options and decide what I wanted to do, but I'll kind of show you here. Last time I installed the engine, I used these spacers in between the engine mounting plate and the firewall there, and it was way long. There was a big old gap here between the firewall and the back of the cowl, so I removed those, and we're still a little over a ½ inch. As you'll see, I'll grab the cowl here. We are still that's as far as I can put it, and there, that's more lined up. As you can see, these are the screw holes that you're supposed to drill into the cowl and mount the cowl on. And I don't know if you can tell. No. We're gonna go for a ride here. This is the end of the prop hub right there. I'm into past the firewall a little bit, but that's a good, what, 1.5 inches or more? Engine's way too long. So, kind of zoom out here a little bit. We have a couple options. I wanted to get this video out just in case anybody has this airplane and saw my last video and decided, well, I want that big engine to put on there. Gotta let you know that it's going to be too long. And this mounting box for the engine, pull that cowl off. This is already installed in the plane, and it goes back into arm there. There's your firewall. This piece here in particular, this side piece, and I think the top and bottom too, they go all the way back here into at least one of the other formers, if not two of them. Let me kind of see if I can see. Okay, yep. It goes all the way to here, the next former. And they have it reinforced with some angle pieces. You can see it through the hole right here. To get this motor, or engine I should say, to fit properly, we got to do a couple things. Or we have a couple options, I should say. We could cut this box up, move it back. We'd have to reinforce everything. We'd also have to make sure, because this box has the thrust angle already built into it, we would have to make sure we cut straight and keep that thrust angle. And also the fuel tank, I can bring it back a little bit, but the fuel tank inside it, as you can see, I'll move my hand. You can see where it is. The back of the fuel tank right here is almost to the instrument cluster panel. And as you can see, it's almost to the front of the firewall, so there isn't much play there. If we were to put that back, I would probably have to forego installing the instrument panel, because I would have to move you can see it's just Velcroed, and I got some rubberized foam to keep it from sliding, is what they suggested, I believe, in the instructions. But we would have to either go with a smaller fuel tank or move this one back and not put in the instrument panel. And it's a very nicely detailed instrument panel, so I'd like to keep that in there if I can. I don't really want to go any smaller with the fuel tank, I don't think. And I don't know what the flight time would be with this size fuel tank, but it would be, yeah, we'd have to go with one that's at least 2 inches shorter. That's going to drastically cut into our flight time. Especially with this thing, I don't know how thirsty it is, but I imagine that it probably likes to drink its gasoline. Also, if we cut the box and move it back, you got a thrust angle, possibility of getting the thrust angle wrong. You have the possibility of weakening the mount box. And also here is our servo box for our throttle and choke, which needs to mount under here according to the instructions. As you can see, if we chop up the firewall, we can't use this. We'll have to do something different with our servos. So there's a lot of things that you'll have to modify in order to cut that engine mount box up and move it back. So what do we do about that? Oh, also, the fuel lines, either way, since I got this flush mounted, and you can see I just have it it's touching the cap head screws to the firewall. I'm at least going to have to get some 1/4 inch spacers, because I don't really want to countersink this and then mount it flush. I think I'd want a little bit of airflow between there so the heat doesn't, I don't know if it'd affect that fiberglass firewall or not. It's been so long since I've actually been really technical with these airplanes to see if that's going to be a problem or not. But I imagine the engine gets pretty hot. So I was thinking airflow issues too. I'd at least want 1/4 inch spacers. You can see my bolt here popped out. I just got the top ones connected now. This loosely fitting for illustration purposes. But what do we do about this? The option that I was thinking of doing, and I don't really have a problem doing it with this particular airplane, and I don't think my dad does either. This is a scale aircraft. To keep it in the dimensions for scale, I would have to move the firewall, or the engine plate. I'd have to cut it up and move it back and make all those modifications. Or what I come up with after a little bit of thinking is that I'm going to extend the firewall, just do like a circumference of balsa and plywood where they're going to screw in so that it has a good solid base for the screws to hold the cowl in. Because if you put the cowl back on and just hold it flush up against to where the firewall is, you have about in between 1/4 and 1/2 inch in between the front of the cowl and the base of the, what did I do with that? I had it there. Oh, right here. The base of the nose cone and to where the prop starts, which is about the spacing that I'm not going to put it on because it's a really tight press fit. It fits nicely. But between your cowl and there, it's almost perfect being flush with the firewall. That's going to give plenty of space where it's not going to hit the cowl. And if the cowl does, for some reason, the screws come loose and it starts to vibrate, it's not going to hit that nose spinner. But it's going to throw it off scale. But I get to keep the structural integrity of the engine mounting block. I keep the thrust angle. Don't have to worry about any of that. And also, my servo boxes will work for the throttle and the choke. The only thing I'll have to do different, I'll have to either probably end up drilling holes underneath and running the fuel lines out because they can't go through this hole. It's going to be too tight, I think. Well, I could, because you got this space here in between the engine. No, that's pretty tight. I think we'll end up with pinch lines. So we'll probably do some holes, do some rubber grommets so that it doesn't chafe the line and spill fuel all over the place. That would be bad. And we get to keep things as we can. And they were nice enough to leave me some, I opened this panel up and they left me some scrap covering so that I can go to the hobby shop and match the white color. And once I get this built up like so, I will use these same locations just over here to mount, to screw, or sorry, drill and mount the cowl in. And then I'll just take a piece of the covering, probably fill these holes in with some putty or something, and then just cover over where these holes are, and then cover it to there. And it'd be no worse than this seam right here that they got for the top of the fuselage. And nobody's gonna, well, except for you and I now, because I told you what I was gonna do, but I don't think anybody would be the wiser unless they got a tape measure out and said, whoa, that's not in scale. But this is it's an almost ready to fly aircraft. If I were to have scratch built this or built this from plans and it wasn't covered or nothing, and I don't know. I'd probably be more particular if it was a World War II scale aircraft, or I was going to enter it, or my dad was going to enter it, I should say, in a scale competition. But this is just one of those, this is going to be one of those fun flyers. So I don't think adding inch or so to the cowl, just to make sure the cowl fits, to accommodate for this beast of an engine, I don't think that's going to be the end of the world. And we get to keep our big engine. The recommended sizes for this, I believe, oh, it says it right here on my deal. 120, like a DLE 120 to a DLE 170. As you can read it on there. And yeah, I've seen pictures online of people putting this engine in. And I re-looked at it after the cowl didn't fit, and I seen they cut up this box to get it to fit. And I don't know, I just think it'd be a simpler solution to just add on a little bit, and for a place to, this cowl doesn't really weigh nothing. So I think a kind of a balsa circumference, and then put ply blocks where all the mounting holes will go. I think that'll work just fine. And like I said, get some covering that matches, since I got a sample here. And I think that'll be the simplest solution for this. And then I can probably use some Velcro and some of that foam skid pad to mount the ignition coil packs, one on each side, because it has two. But like I said, just wanted to get this video out for anybody who's got this plane and decided they want to get this big DLE 222 engine and slap in it. You're either going to have to do a lot of modification, or I guess I wanted to give people my idea of what could be another option to make it a little bit simpler. Yeah, it's going to throw your fuselage off scale. But also, I didn't mention CG too. I mean, the weight of this engine, it's further forward. There's plenty of power in this engine. Like I said, the 170 is what they recommend for a top end. This is a 222. There's going to be enough power to where if you need to add some weight, a little bit after the fuselage, the thing's still gonna fly just fine. There's gonna be plenty of power. I'm just gonna have to shift the batteries back or something. It's got some big old batteries in it. I don't know if I've showed you guys yet, but just have to shift some weight back to get your center of gravity right. But I think that beats modifying everything and risking the thrust angle being wrong and weakening the mount box. So anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for watching and following along. Next video, you'll probably see that build out on the firewall. And I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.